And here we are, brand new LaraChat episode number 4. Today we're going to talk about tools and more tools. I'm not talking about these guys that they're tools, but the tools they use. We've got a new guest on tonight, Adam. He hasn't told me much about himself, so I'm going to defer to him. Say, Adam, tell us, who are you?
I'm Adam. I'm a weirdo, but I'm so excited to be here. This is so much fun. I work for a company called Creative Empowering Solutions. I guarantee you've never heard of us, but I do work with Mike at my company, which is very fun. We write medical practice management, workflow management software, 100% in Laravel. That's a lie. Mostly Laravel, and we have a lot of fun doing it. So that's me. Oh, I suppose I should also say that I am to my friend Tom and we do run the Laravel Collective, and we maintain those packages. Maintain, guys. I know. I'm sorry. I got a weekend planned for it soon, so we got to play some catch up. But we do maintain those packages that have been deprecated outside of Laravel's core framework and kind of pushed to the side. If only because of the scope of what Laravel does. So we make sure that you can still use those form builders.
Well, allow me to extend my thank yous for that. I definitely use them. They're very helpful. So we also got Matt, Mike, and Riz, our usual core crew. Poor Riz, the daylight saving for the rest of us have affected him. It's 6 a.m. instead of 7 a.m., so that's why he has not brushed his hair this morning. As he said, who brushes their hair at 6 a.m.? That's a question I want to put to the community. Who does brush their hair at 6 a.m.?
If you do, you are crazy.
So one of the things I wanted to segue into was our last show. We talked about Spark cost, and I think we're all in agreement that, yes, we're fine with the cost associated, and we definitely think Taylor and team should be rewarded for the hard work to make our lives much, much easier. And we also went into the repository service pattern a little bit. I mean, that is probably an 8 to 10 to 20 hour topic. We can go over so many different ways that different people do it. But we did talk about it a little bit, and maybe we'll talk about it in the future. But today, as I mentioned, we're all about the tools. And so who wants to start? All right, if nobody's going to speak up, I'm going to nominate Adam.
Very good. Oh, I just unmuted myself. I was about to speak up. I guess right now my favorite tool is actually called GitKraken, and I didn't prepare a link, but I will send one in the live chat right now. GitKraken is I can't submit a web address. Okay, well, gitkraken.com. It is a Git client built in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, it is not an open source project, but since it is built with Electron, it is multi-platform, and it's something that I've come to quite like, if only because Tower for the Mac was bugging out on me. Their diff editor was acting a little strange, so I'm now using GitKraken. I'm sorry to say it's not the most exciting tool under the sun, but I will show a little bit here.
And they did just add submodule support yesterday, which is awesome.
Did they? So now you're going to start using it. That's great.
I've been using it since beta 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, la-ti-da, Mike.
No, go ahead.
So you can quickly browse between your projects. You can also click this folder and open up, a full list of your projects. You kind of give it a parent directory, and it can also collaborate. See, I can pick a place to open a repository from. I've got these repositories. In fact, I need to deploy this one right now. So, I mean, as far as working with diffs, you've got what's really kind of neat is it shows your current staging area as like a work in progress commit. So you can have real-time view of the graph here, and I can see that I've got 2 files here that are currently in the staging area. They're debug things that I don't want to ever commit, but so it's pretty slick. I mean, you can view your diffs, your staging area. You can stage one file at a time. You can stage just lines at a time, or what they call hunks. and you got your summary and description. You hit commit, and you can browse your full commit history. I mean, it's what you would expect in a Git client. It's just something that I've come to like. Mike, what do you got?
Could you talk about the hunks, how they work?
Yeah, sure. So let's say I've got. See, I happen to have this file open, so let's just delete some lines here and get. I've got to save, I suppose. You now see I've got this file over here where I can view the diff here, and I deleted a bunch of lines from this file, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually also going to delete a couple other lines far away, and you'll see that it presents these as two separate hunks. So I can decide, these lines right here are what I want to commit right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and stage this hunk, but this hunk up here is not ready. Now, one of the things that I found somewhat confusing, but I got used to really quickly, is that when you click the file in the unstaged files section, you see the unstaged hunks. And then if you click the same file that's also in the staged file section, you see the staged hunks. So you can navigate relatively easily looking for what's going on. You just kind of have to keep in mind what is staged and what is not, and where to find it. But again, I can just be like, just this line or just these two lines are what I want to stage, or the whole hunk, or the whole file, or all files with this right here. So that's what hunks do, and they are really quite useful, having the ability to just say, yeah, these lines are ready to go in a commit. Because a lot of times I'll forget to commit when I'm going from one item in my to-do list to another one. So I like to keep my commits pretty cohesive and say exactly what they did. So if I needed to cherry pick and revert one, I could. A lot of cool graphing capability. I always find it useful, especially when I was working with a colleague, kind of for the first time, collaborating on a set of changes. And you can see there's a lot of back and forth activity here. And excuse me, this is actually one of my favorite graphs. Made it really easy to follow along with what was happening. I know it always looks confusing after the fact, but when you're sitting at a commit like this, you can kind of see where you're coming from, which branch you're on, and stuff like that. So I will say one of the downsides is I know Tower app has a really great quick switcher, and you can just hit a keyboard shortcut and start typing just like you would with something like Alfred. You get that fuzzy search, and I really did like that, and GitKraken does not have that. And my recents list is only a few here, and I work with so many repositories. You can see I've just got a ton in here because we have a plugin-based architecture with our software, so all these are just different plugins, and so I'm always jumping through these, and it's kind of a bummer to me that I can't quickly switch between them, but they are enhancing the product at least once a week. I get an update on it, and it's something that I've been quite pleased with. Oh, I can also show whether I have any, but it does have Git flow support, so that's really nice, and it has GitHub and Bitbucket integration, which I never really use them, to be honest, but it's nice for if you have your GitHub account hooked up, you can clone a repository from your GitHub account right here because it's already integrated. So I've got all my GitHub repos right here, and just to tease you guys, let me do this. Look at that. We'll just clone Laravel Forge here. I can go ahead and clone that just to tease you guys. So yeah, it's a pretty powerful app, and I'm quite happy with it. So if you are somebody who likes playing with new apps, which you should be if you're watching this video, then enjoy GitKraken.
That's actually really, really cool there. I've never used that app. Used a couple different ones and also the command line, but I think I'm going to probably have to check out that. I really like that.
Yeah, and it is, I guess for since we're nerds, we got to talk about there are two themes. And like I said, it does take some getting used to because I feel as though they abstract some of the Git concepts But I always find it useful to have a UI in front of me so I can have a very comprehensive overview of what's happening, especially when you get into collaborating with other developers and editing multiple things at the same time. It's not just a single file change, you know. So yeah, it's pretty slick. Oh, and again, it's not open source, but it is built on Electron. Which I appreciate. I've done some Electron development myself for native mobile app or native desktop applications with just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and it's worked quite well. So there's Get Cracking. Oh, and also I suppose if you are like me and you like the fact that it's built in Electron, one thing if you're a tool whore like I am. I'm just going to change my screen here. If you go to electron.atom.io, which this might tie into Mike's talk a little bit, Electron's got a list of apps down here, and they're just really nice apps. You know, there's an email client, there's a Docker client, Slack is built on Electron. This is a Mongo client, this is a hosts editor. I assume that's a password manager. Postman is built on Electron now. That's news to me. So. Lots of cool stuff with Electron. So if you like looking at fun new tools, here's a nice little repository for you. And a lot of these apps are open source. Oh, and Sean, you're going to talk about Visual Studio Code. This is built on Electron as well. So.
Yeah, I actually did not realize that it was built on Electron, so that's actually really cool. So, yeah. Yay.
So the big question. I'm one of those Tower fanboys. Not because I particularly like it, but because I can't stand using the CLI. Forget. I'm sorry, I know that I lose a lot of nerd points by saying that, but I don't like having to think too much about how I write stuff in the CLI. I prefer the visual stuff, as you'll see soon. So, do you think this is going to kill Tower?
Do I think it's going to kill Tower? It did for me. And again, I say that only because I was having bugs. Like the Tower app was just bugging out for me with it in the diff editor. So it was showing lines that were highlighted that weren't changed, and there was offset, and I think the beauty of the lightweightness of an app when it just runs Chrome and to render everything, I think it provides a lot of flexibility. Is it going to kill Tower? I don't know. You know how people are with their tools. They get loyal and they just continue using it, or they don't have a reason to change. And frankly, if you use Tower and it doesn't bug out for you, then I'm not going to suggest you change. Maybe try it because it's different, but I don't necessarily think it'll kill Tower.
Does it have its own diff viewer? Because Tower doesn't, right? Tower relies on your OS diff viewer.
No, it does as well, especially if you're going to do really complicated diff viewing. But I mean, if I just wanted to see, adding idle pad config, if I wanted to look at this config, it has an inline one, but it's not. This is not a diff viewer per se. I suppose it's not for conflict resolution. It's just for just showing you what has changed. So when I am resolving conflicts, I do have a setting. General merge tool, get config defaults, or you can select your OS one as well, which I prefer. I do like to use Kaleidoscope, so I like that they allow me to use my tool for that. I haven't had a need to tackle that yet, so hasn't
Man,
changed.
we have some Mac nerds here. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to look at this.
Yeah. I use it as well, and I find myself jumping back to Git Tower every so often, just because I'm comfortable with Git Tower. And the transition period is, I'll find something that's difficult in Kraken right now, especially while it's in beta, and not like the submodules. Up until today, submodules were, even working with submodules in Kraken now is kind of different. So you have to get used to it. And so I would jump back and forth just to get stuff done. And but it's well on its way to being feature complete.
Yeah, and I would agree. It's definitely in beta. Not that it has bugs, and not that it isn't stable, and not that I wouldn't recommend using it now just because it's in beta. But it is. They're getting there. They're slowly working on features. They seem to have a really solid team who's and they're doing a great job. I really do feel that way. So it's just going to be a matter of when they hit their stable. Let's hope they keep it free. I believe they intend to. And that's another thing about it. Tower is not free, so that might be a good argument for using something like this as opposed to a paid program like Tower.
If you do end up using it, to anybody watching or thinking about using it, provide feedback on the bottom. There's a little button on the bottom right. They do listen to you. You might not get a response, but I've provided 3 or 4 feedbacks, and I've seen them crop up here and there that they actually implemented it. I probably wasn't the only one saying it, but they do listen to feedback and they're responsive to that. So that's good to see.
They haven't taken my feedback. My feedback was a quick switcher, like I was talking about earlier.
Oh, like they wouldn't do that?
They just haven't replied, and they haven't done it yet. So.
Oh, it's probably coming. I'll bet you it's coming.
Yeah, it has to be. Otherwise, I might switch back to Tower if they fix that bug, because yeah, a lot of times I'm working on just 3 or 4, but there are definitely times where I'm working on 10 at a time, and I got to switch back.
Right.
Multiple windows would be nice as well. I don't even know if Tower supports multiple windows, but having the ability to create a second instance of this would be really nice.
So one of the things I wanted to add here was for us to, stand up for Riz when our LaraChat members dump on him for not being all up on the CLI. So to our LaraChat members, please be nice. Riz is a good guy.
I am going to actually got one more thing I wanted to share is I do have an update available for Git Kraken. It's currently downloading, so I wanted to show. There we go. There's my little button down here in the bottom left. Update ready. Restart Git Kraken. If I click it, it'll probably crash Hangouts, so I'm not going to because I'm only sharing this window right now. But that's a really nice thing is it does automatically check for updates every time you start the application. It automatically downloads them, and all you got to do is click the button. It just restarts, and it's done. And that's a native feature to Electron, in case you weren't aware. Same update process for Atom Editor. So cheers to GitHub for creating a really great ecosystem for native apps, especially for us web geeks.
So while we're here, we've got questions. So is anybody else going to cover a diff tool today? Because those are probably the nerdiest things we can talk about. So there's Kaleidoscope. We talked about Kaleidoscope just now, kaleidoscopeapp.com, which is very expensive, and I think it's OS 10 only, is it? I think it's OS 10 only. So there's that. It's very good, but it's also very costly. Do you guys have any alternatives you use if you're not a Mac hipster like I am? Also, just for the record, yeah, I'm not a good guy when it comes to the CLI. Don't expect CLI wizardry from me. All right. Diff editors, diff viewers, and merge collision solvers. What do you guys have?
I'm going to chime in. I've never paid for Kaleidoscope.
Really?
Just never have. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did not download an illegal copy of it. I'm not sure, but yeah, I don't actually see any licensing information in this app at all. So I don't know if they have a free version. Or maybe, you know what, I might have paid for it in my App Store or something, because there's no licensing I'm looking at. So anyway, that's 2 cents.
So I might have to edit out a portion of this video here to save you in the future. Making it tough for me to like you here. I don't know. Just curious, are there any other tools you wanted to show off? I mean, that one was actually a really good tool. I've never used it. I'm going to have to check it out.
Let me see what I have open. Oh, there's this really great tool called Slack. Oh, wait. I do use another Electron app called Mongotron.io. It's a Mongo client. Again, built on Electron, very similar look to Git Kraken. I can't show you anything of that right now on my screen share, but Mongotron is a really nice Mongo client for anybody who uses Mongo for your schema list data store. There was another tool on here called Hozz, H-O-Z-Z, and it's a hosts file editor, but it doesn't work. It says tested on OS X 10.11.12, and I'm sorry, 10.11.2. I'm on 10.11.3, and it just does not work. So I'm disappointed in that.
I've been using Hosts. It's a system preferences plugin that lets you edit your host files.
Yeah, I've seen that. I don't remember if I got that to work either or not. But you want to link me that, Mike?
I'll go put it. I'll go find it. Yeah.
Thanks.
So I have a question about this Mongo client. I'm not sure if I've tried it, but I remember looking for GUI for Mongo, similar to SQL Pro. Um, does this one allow you to connect to Vagrant? Because when I tried some of the other clients, they completely crashed on me. I'm not sure if it was my doing or the app or what. And I kind of just gave up from there.
Yeah, let me. Do you use Homestead specifically?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, yeah, I'm connected to my Homestead box right now. Works fine.
Oh, that's good news. I'm going to have to
Uh,
try this one now.
yeah, and I just gave it my Homestead IP, which is 192.168.10.10, and the port 27017, and I did not give it a database name or any credentials because I don't even bother, you know, messing with credentialing on my local machine. So it does work. I don't have anything in that particular database at the moment because I'll tend to use a Docker version of it, but at least connected.
Well, that's good news. Yeah, and Matt just messaged in our chat Mongo Hub. I think that was the one I ended up using that crashed on me. But hopefully they have an update. But in the meantime, I'm going to check out MongoTron.
Yeah, I do use Mongo Hub. That's kind of what I use primarily. I'm not a fan of it though. I'm far from a fan of Mongo Hub. I definitely prefer the Mongotron. And once I tried it probably several months ago, and it did not work. But I figured it was in beta at the time, and now it looks like they've hit a stable tag. So and Mongotron is open source. So just kidding. They're in 1.0 Alpha 3 at the moment, but it works a lot better than it did when I tried it.
And there's your Haas app. That's cool.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I just didn't mean to show it. But yeah, this is that app. It looks really nice in theory, but it just didn't work. It kept saying Haas is not authorized, and you have to grant access, and I kept typing in my password. It just didn't do anything. So I'll just wait for a new tag on this, and hopefully that'll help. But
Cool. That's thank you for showing us these tools. I'm going to move on to the next victim, Matt, on his 2009 MacBook. So everybody, please, with me, let's hope he doesn't crash when he tries to share his screen. If he does, so Matt, take it away, and may the force be with you.
High pressure. Okay. So, all right. So in terms of a variety of tools, I mean, okay. Now I'm caught between Riz and I'm caught between Adam in terms of using command line for Git stuff and then using apps for Git stuff. Like, I'm totally guilty. I still use the GitHub app. I mean, it works. If I'm just doing commits, why not? But then if I'm doing anything with merging, stuff like that, pushes, pulls, I'm usually all in command line. But then and then in terms of like some of the other tools I've used, like SourceTree, I pretty much only use for everything with Bitbucket, and then and SourceTree I feel is very similar to Tower, at least in terms of a UI. I never used Tower, but to me they're, if you look at them, they look quite similar anyway. GitKraken I tried out, but for me the UI wasn't quite where I like to be, and yeah, just as a consequence, like I said, I mostly just stick with GitHub app because it's type, commit, good enough, move on to the next stuff. And so anyway, but of a couple little things I was going to show off. So let's hope. I'm going to try and get this to work. Oh yeah.
Hangouts is actually prejudiced to 2010 and prior, prejudiced against those, so you might have some issues. Oh, you're succeeding. Wow.
Okay, so first thing I use, which nobody is going to talk about, but to me I find it to be one of the most handy little things in the world. It's called Better Snap. And you can see how it'll literally highlight off the section, but I can snap in 50/50 for any screens. Now, that can be amazingly helpful for just general small stuff. The next thing I'm going to quickly show off is getStatX. Now, getStatX is, I'll have links for it in a bit, but it's kind of neat because you can actually pop up. Yeah, no. If you talk about El Capitan's thing, I hate El Capitan's thing because that 50/50 screen deal, it sections it off into a full desktop, and I like the idea of being able to do this anywhere, anytime. You know, I can go up quarters, I can go low quarters, technically you can do full center, but I just like being able to split 50/50. It doesn't have to be, that's all I'm saying. So, now, with getStatX, it's just a huge amount of stats, but you can actually crawl through and see some pretty slick stuff about, your commit histories, your authors, files being mucked around with, line changes, tag histories. But it's a nice little separate thing to run locally or whatever. And better snap. Source tree. Yeah, I use source tree for a handful of things, but this as well. Easy to see your different things, easy to jump into your commits, work with it. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, I actually use source tree myself, so I wanted to get Matt to show it off because, like all of us, we use a combination of Inception here.
Yeah, I gotta kill this.
Yeah, I use source tree myself, and there's a couple, like the rest of you, there's a couple different tools we all use, command line, source tree, and I'll talk a bit about the one I use. So I guess, Matt, are there any other tools you wanted to talk about or go more in depth on?
As soon as I kill the screen, oh no, screen share is done. Okay. In terms of general tools, I mean, I'm a Sublime Text guy, and will be until I'm totally sided with Atom, I'll be Sublime Text guy. I think we all know general ins and outs of Sublime Text. For terminal, I'm iTerm 2, and I've been using that for a while. But then, I guess one little one that I don't know if everybody knows about, but I like, is called PG Commander. I can show that one off. Share. Okay. So PG Commander is for your Postgres management. It's a lot like SQL Pro for all your MySQL stuff, but I felt like this is the closest in terms of a UI that I can feel, I'm actually looking at the right information in the right places, and I can modify my information in the easiest possible ways for a general database management tool.
Question for you with that tool, does it handle foreign key relations at all? I noticed you had like a foreign primary key on there. How does it work with that?
I think it can, but I haven't dug into it enough to figure out the details of that. It's one of those ones where it was like, I'm so used to doing everything with SQL Pro, and then I was like, I just need something to tinker with a Postgres database for this one thing for this one time that I can think of, and just stumbled onto that one because I was like, it's the nicest UI I've seen for a bit.
Yeah, I think I know for me personally, having a great UI definitely sells me on a product. I can actually live with a few bugs as long as the UI is really friendly and easy to work with. I think that's a definite change, I assume, based on the let's say 10 years ago, I think a lot of developers didn't care too much about design, and a lot of the interfaces were pretty wild and lots of buttons, lots of inputs, etc. So I really liked having good design with our apps, and I think that was one of the things that made Slack such an amazing and easy to adopt app. So I guess what we'll do is I'll segue into one of my tools. So my favorite code editor is Visual Studio Code, which I'm not too much of a Microsoft guy. I'm not too much of a Visual Studio guy, but I had been using an app called Coda by Panic for a few years. Really liked it. Great UI. Then I started using Sublime because there were some amazing packages, which we talked about in our first show with regards to the code sniffers and so forth. So I ended up coming across Visual Studio Code, and one day I thought, all right, I'll try it. And so what I really like is I'm able to have my LaraChat local install with Matt's Laravel package. So I thought it looked really nice UI-wise, and then I could come into the code. So what I think was really cool was that in this section here, I have a working files list. So these are all the files that I have been working on, and I can quickly reference them. So if I have to jump from team service over to the user model, over to the account service file, it's all there instead of having to scroll up and down in the large list or having tons of tabs across the top. So I found that really useful when I was trying to work, so to speak. It's also got the ability to have, keyboard shortcuts, snippets, color themes, obviously. But we can have like user settings. So I could come in here, I can change the tab size from 4 to 2 or 6 and so forth. And all these different settings, which is pretty similar to what Sublime has. When I install a package, there's settings for those ones like PHP mess detector. I can set different things on that. I thought that was pretty cool to be able to carry that over. And it's got your usual settings, your go-to file, find in files, your usual settings, which is really nice. And just like Adam Kraken mentioned about an update, the same kind of thing. An update will come in, and it'll come in, and I'll have to either restart or it'll just work. So one of the things that I think is actually pretty cool in Visual Studio Code, it has GitHub integration built in. So you can see down here, I'm on a branch called is_team_member_bugfix. And then I can publish that branch, and I can also see, this is a side note, I can also see some settings where, incorrect type, expected string in the JSON parameters. So does some code checking for me. So going back to the Git side of things, so let's say I'm working on this team services, and let's say I get rid of this all method. I don't need it anymore. Now I've hit save, and over here we can see my GitHub, repo has one change. So if I wanted to, I can click in here. Oh, I see exactly what I removed. I can write my message, commit message. I could hit commit. I also have the option to push, pull, rebase, sync, all these different Git options. So I don't have to jump over to another app like Tree, which I also use from time to time, or over to the command line, which I also use depending on where I'm at. And I can also stage the file, clean it. Maybe I realize I need that all method. So now we're back to everything's looking great. One of the things it also has is this debugging built in. So I can connect this with PHP debug. I actually haven't. So I don't know how it exactly works, but it's something I want to check out eventually. I think it's pretty cool, but I wish I could talk more about it, but I can't. So that's That's a Visual Studio Code for me, and it's the one I'm using. And Mike is going to try and sell me on the one he uses. So wish him luck, everybody. I'm pretty entrenched with it, but I can be swayed. I came from Coda to Sublime to Visual Studio, so maybe you'll change me. Maybe I'll be a better man for it.
You want to talk about maybe, or what things do you find that don't work so well with Visual Studio Code?
Let me think here. So
you've used PHP Storm in the past, right?
I have not very much.
What was your editor before Visual Studio Code?
Sublime.
How would you compare the two? Are there any major differences?
No, I think I like the UI of Visual Studio Code better. What I did like on Visual Studio Code, and let me share that screen again. And here we go. So what I liked was this working files section. And what I found difficult was having a horizontal list of all these different tabs along here at the top there. It made it hard for me to follow along and understand, or not understand. I'd click on a tab. Oh, that's not the right one. Another one, not the right one, etc., etc. So I have this working files list which I can easily reference, or like this settings JSON file. Actually, I don't need to reference it again. So I just take it out. Account services. Well, I know I'm done there, so I move on. And then I could have many files in there that I just kind of scroll through. So in essence, that's my my tabbing architecture. So I like that. That appealed to me more than having a bunch of different tabs. When it comes to the plugins, there's fewer plugins for Visual Studio Code than there is for Sublime, but I'm okay with that because of what I already have built in. I'm comfortable with it. And one of the things I think that you wowed me with was, I think you said PHP Storm. If I start typing, typing out a class, it will automatically add in the use and the namespace for that particular class. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that or go more in depth about that, but I thought that was pretty cool because I would usually inject my repository and then have to come up here and add in the namespace and so forth. There's not many differences that really made me jump. I think the big one was having the Git ability built into the IDE here, which is what sold me on trying it, and I just haven't changed since.
Now, Sean, I had seen a video about Visual Studio Code that showed some sort of live code output analysis. Is that only for JavaScript code? Am I missing something, or am I completely tripping?
That I actually don't know.
Cool.
I'd actually be interested to know more about that. Watch that video, and maybe there's something here that I don't know. I didn't know.
Okay, I'll find out.
So is it me now? Is it my turn? All right.
I don't know. I kind of feel like making you wait a little bit longer because, Riz, he got up at 6 a.m. and he doesn't have his hair done. I feel bad for him. So why don't we go with Riz next?
Well, yeah, right. There you go. Cool.
First of all, just to add on earlier, VS Code is cross-platform. Some people associate everything that's Visual Studio to be Windows only because Windows. So yeah, it is cross-platform. We can get it for OS X, Windows, and Linux. First of all.
Oh, I was going to just add on to that. They're pushing a lot more to cross-platform. SQL Server is going cross-platform now.
A lot of their stuff is.
Yeah, really cool.
Okay, so first, for the record, this is a thing. So, not a pirate. Anyway, I was going to talk about, so when we're talking about tools, right, there are loads of different tools I use every day because I'm an interface designer. So inevitably, I end up using a lot of graphical tools. Now, if I talk too much about that, I'm going to lose a lot of nerd cred. So instead, I'm going to break the rules and pick, let's see, Right, so I'm going to talk about how you can use the old school art of paper for planning, because I think people don't do this enough. You see these people talk about all day, which tool should I use for planning, which tool should I use for design. Paper doesn't get enough credit. I was going to use a drawing tablet, but then people say, I don't have a drawing tablet, or I don't have a notebook, or what is a pencil? It's 2016. So I'm going to use my iPad. It's actually, here's the thing when it comes to planning on paper. And it sounds kind of stupid that I'm talking about paper planning, but it's actually, I think it's one of the most fundamental tools every developer needs to have. If you're a visual planner and you like to start from the interface like I do, then you can just actually draw the actual form. Now, people say just use Bootstrap. It's a bunch of CSS classes. You can get them done. You can get them done quickly. No pain, no fuss. I disagree. When you're working with Bootstrap or any other framework, your head is already fixated on the UI they give. This is detrimental to good code and good software, because good software is designed around its purpose, not around the tools you have. So if you're like me and you want to start with actually developing the interface, and you want to see, okay, if a user wants to log in, they need their username, which goes in this area and here, and then maybe, or maybe this is a credit card, so this is their credit card number, and then their the security code goes at the end, and then maybe we'll have the logo for the credit card be at the corner, and then here is the submit button, right? And then maybe a help button would be helpful. When you have this written down, and it takes you 30 seconds to get this on paper, then you can keep this, and this is your reference for developing your app from there on in. You don't need to worry about how much margin do I need, what colors do I use. Just as long as you stick to your design, you know your app is going to look good. Okay, so this is if you are a visual designer like I am, and you think in terms of visuals. Programmers have a tendency to like code and models and stuff, crazy stuff like that. I don't know why you guys are crazy. Let me get into creative access. If you are a data modeler, you might want to model things in terms of data. Here's another common problem. You're thinking, okay, data, I should use UML or whatever format for backend data. Just draw a person. Oh, for the record, this isn't an iPad, so I can't draw. But you can just write out, they need an email, they need a name, they need a password. Now, usually, if this is on paper, you can just write it down, but I'm not on paper, so I can't write it down. But just do it visually. Do a visual representation of what you want to make. Don't think about one-to-many relationships or accessors and mutators and strings and varchars and long text. Just draw it. Spend 5 minutes of your time coding and laying it out, and then go into the code. Or if you're an interaction planner, like I used to be an interaction planner, so I wouldn't design in terms of the UI or the model, and instead I'd work from interaction. So maybe you would start with the homepage, and you would have like a button there, and then this would take you to a screen with the the little plans like that, and then you would have, I don't know, you can plan this out. I don't want to make this too specific because you need to try it. A lot of developers don't try paper. And by paper, I mean actual physical paper, not an app. You should really try it just to see what you can do out of it. And remember, be flexible. Don't get too fussed up about, okay, this is on route something something, or okay, this is a one-to-many, or okay, this goes through API gateway controller, whatever. Do it flexibly, do it easy. If you want to have shortcuts, there are online resources for making shortcuts. Like little pictures and icons you can drop into your Photoshop or whatever. That's fine. Just don't get too stressed about it. Have fun, be wild on paper, because this is how good code and good software is born. I like to criticize people for using Bootstrap. or any other framework, because you jump in, you already have it in your head. This is what a form looks like in Bootstrap. And as a result, you don't have good quality code. If you're like me and you like using physical tools, that's why I have a giant-ass whiteboard behind me. And that's where all my thinking goes on to. I can just stand there with a marker and just draw for hours and hours. Don't forget about good old classic tools like, I'm looking for some here, like Post-its or tape or a big poster you lay on top of your whiteboard. If you use Photoshop, then maybe you can have different layers, where one layer is your interaction, you have one layer for your annotations. Go crazy, go wild. I don't want to talk about tools because everybody can have a different tool, but paper, yeah. Paper, you can't really swap out for anything else.
That's interesting because I think all of us thought you were going to be talking about real pen and paper, and you were going to be holding up a pen and paper. I had a completely different idea of what we were going to do.
Oh, I could do that. I was gonna use a drawing tablet, but people on Slack were like, "I don't have a drawing tablet. What do I do?" And paper can be anything. If you don't have any paper, grab a marker, use the wall. Your parents taught you how to do it.
Well, Matt just mentioned he carved his ideas in stone, which goes really well with his 2009 MacBook. So another thing is you talked a bit about Bootstrap. There was a site that I believe it came out this week, or it got popular this week. So every fucking Bootstrap website ever.
Yeah, I saw this too. And I should point out first, I don't think there's fundamentally anything wrong with Bootstrap. It's a starter kit. It's
absolutely, yeah. I mean,
if you use it and you customize it, it's fine.
Yeah, my personal website portfolio is built on Bootstrap. I could do better, but it looks nice. I'm happy with it. But definitely for work, the SaaS products I build, or anything else, I try and stay away from your every Bootstrap website look.
I think the problem is just a lot of people pick up Bootstrap and say, because I'm using Bootstrap, which is an industry standard, therefore I'm done. Like, I don't need to worry about styling anything specifically because that's all there is to it. And I would, since you mentioned paper, yeah, I usually do use notebooks, small notebooks like this one. See, it's a bit hard to read. Normal paper notebooks, Moleskine notebooks,
like
iPads.
Might have the same book.
I picked this up from Muji, a Japanese store. So small notebooks, bigger notebooks, giant clipboards, whatever you need. You need them, we got them. Come on down to Rizky's old house of stationery. We got everything.
So the next LaraCon is going to be at your house, and everybody will come there and get their swag from you, right? To take it off your desk.
Exactly. The give out is giant glass whiteboards.
So, I don't know. Did we cover everybody? No. Well, poor Mike. He's got a pretty cool topic, and like I mentioned, it's his turn to try and sway me into his world. So, we're running out of time, so maybe we should not do this?
Let's do this in about 4 weeks or so.
Yeah. Well, without further ado, Mike, take it away.
So I've been trying to get away from PHP Storm. It always bugged me a little bit. It was always something was always off with it. It didn't quite fit. It's the Java UI, knowing that I have to install Java on my system and all that crap. So I tried about 6 months ago to go to Atom because it was supposed to be the new and up-and-coming thing. And it was about at the similar level that Sublime Text was at the time with the plugins to support what PHP Storm could do. So I really needed IntelliSense to where it could intelligently scan through my code, give me auto-completion on my stuff and not just the standard PHP stuff. I needed a quick, simple navigation to jump to class definitions, code syntax and style checking, like we talked about a couple episodes ago with PHP-CS and PHP-MD, which code formatting. So if I have a legacy file, I can just hit format code and it does all the indentation correctly for me. Extracting and refactoring is also pretty important. Doc block management. You know, I didn't like the gutter in PHP Storm. It was on the right side. I like my gutters on the left side with little round bubbles. Just me, I guess. Customizable themes, which you could do in PHP Storm, but yeah, it was so-so. And customizable key bindings, which you all could all do in PHP Storm. That was no problem. But so this was my list I wanted in an editor that wasn't PHP Storm. And so I was trying out Atom again. About 3 weeks ago, I started working on this. And for 2 weeks now, I haven't really touched PHP Storm at all. And it's going pretty good. But before I show you what Atom looks like on my system, let me give you a quick view of the tools that I use. I made a quick screen capture here. These are my, if you can see that, that's basically my daily tools pretty much. I have Git Tower still there until Kraken becomes feature complete. SQL Pro Base is for SQLite databases. Balsamic Mockups is kind of like paper. It's an abstracted wireframer. Kaleidoscope, we talked about that, the Git diffs. Affinity Designer is for vector graphics. Affinity Photo is like Pixelmator for bitmap graphics. And the reason I have both is because I am not yet proficient in Affinity Photo. It does so much and is really complex. Sketch is awesome for vector graphics. It's just really easy to sketch something up. Billings is my invoice management. Pixelmator bitmap graphics. They also do some vector graphics. ScreenFlow is for doing screen sessions and video. You Need a Budget is my finance. It's contrasted to QuickBooks. This is planning on what your budget is going to be for this. So you're looking ahead. QuickBooks is always looking back what you did. This is always looking ahead. That's why I like this one. Code Runner is where I can execute snippets of code and see what they do without running it in my actual app. Daylight is my daily planner, calendar, tasks, to-dos, things like that. Disk Care is cleaning up old cache files and things, trash. Kraken, another Git viewer. Git manager, yeah. Atom is my editor of choice now, still so far. We'll see if that changes. Then Blogo is a blogging app, which I haven't used too much recently because I'm moving away from WordPress. Color Schemer is a handy tool to make color palettes for websites and adjust them so they still all fit together, and it's really neat. Day One is my journal software that I use to write things down that I do within my business as a freelancer. It's not like a diary, it's like a business diary, basically. So this is the list of apps that I use, and now let's go to Atom. So I have a sample project up here with Atom. There's not much really different in the looks from Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text. I'm going to go in here and we can see how this works. Syntax highlighting is all there. Now when I do, let's do a new, see I get the public function. You get good IntelliSense now, so it actually goes through all the code in your system or in your project, and it shows you what you're working with. Instruct, and now I'm going to make a mistake. Test. Oh, I'm going to do, first I'll do it in IntelliSense. Now watch, it's not going to work. Collection is not working, of course. It must not have indexed this yet. Haha. Figures when I want to demo something. Let's see, what else can we use? A new, I'll just do another class user. Nope, this one isn't working. Let me pull up another project real quick so we can go through that. File, new window, open the project, and I'm just going to go into this one because I know it works in this one. And I'm going to go in here. There we go. So now we get the Illuminate support collection. I hit enter. It adds the use statement on the top for me. It sorts them. And it fills in the items I can, or the parameters I can use for that class. So that's pretty cool. I like that. That was one of my main features. Then the other feature is finding the declaration of collection so I can trace the code back if I have to do some debugging. Option click, and it goes back to the class within your project. You have the overview map of your whole file. I like this for scrolling. It's like a visual scroll. It's not really good for much else. I do have, like when I do find and replace, it highlights all the occurrences of the throw keyword, for example, so little blue dots. So it helps find things throughout the class if you're doing something. This on the side is a listing of all the variables and methods and things like that in a class. You can jump real quick between things. Yeah, I like your idea, Sean, that you mentioned earlier about moving these tabs over to the side, because I don't like tabs on the top either. So I will look into that, finding a nice plugin for that, for sure. Let's see, what else? It has on the gutter, so let's look at the gutter here. So I'm going to make a mistake. Space in there, and it gives me an error saying, if I click on that, it tells me space before opening parens, because it doesn't match PSR2. If I make invalid, let's see, I'm going to try to make syntax errors. There. It tells me parse error. It can't find it. That's not really helpful, but at least I know there's an error there. What else? Let's see. Key bindings, themes. Project-wide fuzzy search. I can search for, let's say I'm looking for Illuminate collection. I can do col. And can I? There it is. It'll find it. And it takes me to the class. That's pretty handy. What else? Doc blocks. I can generate doc blocks by I must have uninstalled it now because it wasn't working the way I liked it to, but there is a plugin where you can generate doc blocks, but you have to end up modifying it so much by hand that I might as well write them by hand, so I'm going to keep an eye out for that too. Extracting code out to methods is nice. So I could do test equals new return test, and we can take this and yes, extract method. I'm going to call it get test, and generate documentation. It's going to be private because it's in my class. Extract, boom, we're done. So it only does methods right now, but I think the guy is working on more things to get to the level where PHP Storm is, the guy who wrote that plugin. But this is, I only really did use method extraction in PHP Storm, so this is for now, it's enough for me. So all these things basically give me what I need on a daily basis. They might not be as slick as PHP Storm, but it's getting there. Oh, there's my journal asking me to do some entries. There. All right, well, that's pretty much an overview. Do you guys have any questions, comments, thoughts? What do you think about your experiences with Atom?
I like Atom for any front-end dev that I'm doing if I don't need the IntelliSense stuff. So, for instance, right now I'm creating a new build of our software, and since everything is plugin-based, there's no real hardcore PHP development I'm doing. I'm just configuring Composer, JSON, and stuff like that. So it's much more of a lightweight editor. However, it is substantially heavier as far as the time it takes to boot up than Sublime Text. So once it's up and running, though, it seems really quick. I also like that it does come with a command line launcher. So
oh yes, I forgot to demo that. Sorry. Good point. Right on the bottom here. So I have my command line, and I can do.
Not what I meant, but cool. Well, what I like is I can be in my terminal in iTerm2. I can go to a directory and type in atom space and then period,
Oh, yes.
to file or in any other directory, and it'll open an Atom editor with that folder as the primary folder, which is great. I also like to use this. I know, Sean, you used Coda, which was a great app, especially for when you were developing remotely, because it had almost invisible file sync, two-way sync. So anytime say I'm editing a ton of Nginx config files or VPN config files or something like that on a remote server, there's a great SFTP plugin for Atom. I think it is paid, but it's totally worth it. That allows you to essentially map a local directory to be a clone or a working directory of a remote directory through SFTP or FTP. That's really nice. Again, instant synchronization, so I can tweak a file, hit save, and it pushes it up for you. So it's great for that as well.
I did use Coda as well in the past, and I stopped using it because, just like you said, the boot up time, if an editor takes too long to boot up, when I just want to make a quick fix, it's just not worth it to use.
That's what Vim is for.
I'm not risky. Don't get me with Vim.
One thing that I have noticed too about these editors is I'm never satisfied with. So I know Atom. Well, no, Atom does not have it. Okay, Sublime Text and Visual Studio Code, they all have JSON config files. So you edit the config in just the JSON file, and I have never been satisfied with any comprehensive documentation of that JSON schema to configure the application. So Atom Editor, what's really nice is they do give you a GUI. And I'm pretty sure the plugins define the config options in a JSON structure of some variety, but they do give you, the user, a GUI to tweak some of the settings. And yeah, you can see Mike's. Oh, sorry, I'll shut up so Mike shows up.
No, keep talking. I'm just supporting you here.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's something I've really liked too, is having the visual editor, and the package developers, they can say, okay, here's a config variable. They can give you a whole markdown paragraph of what that config option does if it's necessary. A UI for installing packages, a UI for it looks like it shows the README file of the package, and a UI for mapping your keybinds, which is much nicer for me anyway than dinking around with a JSON schema file.
One of the things I wanted to throw out there was for Mike, when you're done setting up Atom the way you like it, maybe set up, I don't know, a GitHub repo or somewhere where people can just, they're thinking of having a place where I could download all of the plugins and just have it working and let you do all the hard work.
Yeah. No, I'm working on an article that's in parallel with my discovery. It's kind of like a guide, not really an article, and so I hope to get that done within the next week or two. That's what I said 2 weeks ago, but.
I also have a plugin installed called Sync Settings, and essentially all you do is you authorize with GitHub and you give it a gist URL that's yours, and what it does is it pushes and pulls from that gist. So if I have that plugin installed on both my laptops, I can install a new library over here. Next time I open the Atom editor on my other laptop, it checks that gist to see if the JSON has been updated, and it does pull it down automatically for you. So that's something I've really enjoyed as well about Atom editor.
Thanks, that's cool. I'm going to install that.
Do you want to show us how to install? Oh, look at that. He's already done.
Let's all watch Mike install this now.
So the big question I have is, I rely a lot on IntelliSense. Do you think Atom will ever have full PHP Storm level, like, understanding of PHP code? Like, I rely a lot on PHP Storm knowing this variable is an integer, I'm putting it into something, type it as a string. Yeah. Or it'll know I'm returning an array, it'll doc block it as an array. Or one of my favorites is, if you do a collection, you do a for each, it'll try to singularize the variable name.
Right.
Little details like that, which I rely on a lot. Or if you type in the method arguments, then when you do the doc block, it'll appear, and it can even do, if you change a function's arguments, it can scan the entire project and tell you, okay, there's an invocation here which doesn't fit your type-ins. Do you think Adam will ever get to that point? Because that's what matters for me.
I think the crux is down to the plugin developers, because Adam doesn't really control all that, and all that stuff is provided by community plugins.
Yep.
I agree. I'm kind of worried that it's not going to get to that polished level just because the community might not think it's worth that extra effort above 90%. That is so much more effort just to make it 100%.
And I feel like it's out of scope. I mean, the whole purpose of the Atom is to make it so that you can use it as a PHP IDE, or you can use it as a JavaScript IDE, or what have you, and therefore you can kind of build it the way you want it with plugins. So I would say that full IntelliSense is outside the scope of Atom Editor itself, and so I agree with Mike that it is up to the plugin developers to suck less.
Yeah, I don't mean it should be a core feature. I mean, for the purposes of we PHP developers, will it be available through a plugin or otherwise? Because at the end of the day, I think that's what's keeping me on PHP Storm right now. I want to use Atom. I really want to. Funny enough, the main reason why is because, have you seen that font with the ligatures for symbols? Oh, we fought that, I think. Okay, but yeah, there's a font which allows ligatures, and it only works on. It's a bit glitchy on PHP Storm.
There are a couple. There's a Coda Phyra, Monoid, and Monoism. I had Monoism installed that would actually show you the font awesome icons in your class declarations. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so you could see what it would be.
Yeah, I really want to switch. I like how lightweight it is, and I don't like the fact that PHP Storm kills my batteries so badly. But that IntelliSense is so...
I mean, it's the IntelliSense is there. It's just not in the analyzing the code once you have it written.
Yeah, it's not code.
It won't do comprehensive intelligent checking like you're saying. Yeah.
It's more like symbol scanning. And,
right.
Yeah.
But I would wager that the guy who's doing that plugin, PHP autocomplete or whatever it's called, I think he's really working hard and making good progress on that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does come up with that.
Please do.
All right.
So, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just saying I'm done. Thanks.
Oh. Yeah, so we, let's say we lost Matt, so let's have a moment of silence for him and the 2009 MacBook. In the meantime, I would say that's our show for today. I thank you guys, and of course, for Matt as well, which I'll probably have to follow up with him on Slack and say thank you. I hope the people that watch learn a lot about the tools that are out there and start checking out some of them. And by all means, please let's talk about these tools in LaraChat, Slack, and let's learn more about what they do and what works for you guys. Riz was suggesting that we do like an after show. So, all right, maybe Riz, talk a little bit about what you had in mind with that, or.
So the main show, the main event is officially done, yeah? So we're good with tools. Yeah, it's just we've been getting requests to talk maybe a bit more organically, answer questions, things going on right now. People want to hear more stories, talk a bit more, less about a topic, and more about just straight up talking to the community, I feel. Now, yeah, how do you think we should format this?
I think let's keep it on this particular stream, and then for the next show, we'll set up 2 streams and get that all ready before the show. We'll have that all pre-planned and set up. So we'll just continue on with this one as it is, and So we'll be looking on the Slack front push channel in LaraChat, the YouTube page. There's a chat. So if anybody, like Rick said, if there's any questions, please shout them out there, and we'll try our best to answer or to provide a response.
And I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to go. I've got work to do, but I'll tell you what, it was a pleasure being here. Thank you so much. I'll definitely come back soon. And if you guys have any questions about the tools I talked about, Mike can ping me on Slack and get answers to those while you guys are going on here. So thanks for having me, Sean. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Good to see you, Adam.
So, we were asked earlier about experience, or at least fields, maybe. I think. Let me see that. Yeah, Matthew Hatcher asked earlier what we do, and I guess that gives us a bit of. I think it's important actually for people to know that, because, like, look at us. We're not a cross section of developers, because I think we were all on OS 10, were we? Were we that weird? Like earlier during the screen shares, I think most of us run OS 10.
Yeah.
And we know that most developers, like that OS, well, maybe like half of PHP developers I know use OS 10.
Only the good ones.
Shots fired.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so I think it's important to say, well, I'm an enterprise programmer, basically. I write for healthcare and education. Also known as really, really annoying clients. So I grew a lot of white hairs because I deal with big ass, and that's why I need IntelliSense, right? Because I work with these giant code bases, and I lose track of what's happening. So it's actually really useful for me. So you guys want to give a quick 2-minute, because I think they were asking earlier.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Sean. You want to go first?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. I'm a freelance developer. I started working on websites back in 97, 96, back when it was all static. And then I did some Perl, jumped onto PHP, I think when it was version 3 back in 99. And then after that, I got into enterprise programming, and that was all on .NET. So we went into classic ASP first, before .NET came out, and then we went into .NET Framework 1, ASP, and then that was Visual Basic still. No, Visual.NET. And then we went into C#, and C# was the most pleasurable to work with back at the time. I did that for quite a few years, and then after that, I went back to PHP just because as a freelancer, the cost and you don't have a big hurdle to get into that. As a freelancer, if you're using enterprise stuff like Windows, you have to have Windows Server licenses, you have to have SQL Server licenses. All these costs are just way outrageous for a freelancer. So I went back into PHP, and I liked how quickly you can throw things together. And I mean, it has its drawbacks, of course, like we all talk about. You know, it can be crappy quality, and if you don't watch out. But yeah, so that's my background. I'm I guess a full stack developer. I used to be a jack of all trades, but I found that wasn't really the way to go, because you knew a little bit of everything but master of nothing. And so now I'm trying to just focus on Laravel and dig in there, and then maybe branch out after that.
My turn now. Before I segue into, I guess, my history, we have a question from one of our great forum members, Jesse. Question was, did you know you have a strikingly handsome resemblance to Sidney Crosby? Do you like long walks on the beach? And do you play hockey? Fellow lover members, I do play hockey. I have played hockey all over Canada and a little bit in Europe. Years ago, I'm older, fatter, slower than I used to be. The team I play for, we are called Red Army, and we all have Russian hockey jerseys with the names of Russian NHL players. The player that my name is Malkin. People have said I have a resemblance to him and the way I play, so no, I don't look like Sidney Crosby. I look like Malkin, if you will. So about me, I'm currently a CTO at a boutique digital agency here in Vancouver. We have our client base, and we are building our own internal apps, SaaS products, startup, so to speak. I'm heavily passionate about the startup world in Vancouver. I have my own side project, which I would like to convert into a company. I'm always creating something. I like to call myself a builder. So I've been primarily heavily focused on PHP for the last 10 or so years, give or take. I used to work at a company called Electronic Arts, which does video games. Got to work on some of the games that I had adored in my childhood, and there we used C Sharp, which was it was interesting, but I was still really new as a developer, so it was hard to really wrap my head around some of the concepts that I was still understanding, the base of programming logic at the time. Um, so after that, moved on to other companies where we used PHP, our own custom framework. Then when we went into uh, Python, if I recall, and there was a framework, it was Django, and it was really cool in the way it worked, how it was all set up. So a good friend of mine and I, we both decided to make our own framework. We called it WHIP, which stands for Working Happily in PHP, because as awesome as those Python commands were, we wanted to work in PHP. So WHIP became the name. And then after working on that for a period of time, I found EYII, that framework, and it adheres to all the principles I felt that an MVC architecture should have, and I used E for 3 years or so, and someone told me to check out Laravel, and so I did. I was kind of hesitant at first, but I eventually checked it out. Like my mind, the light bulb went off. I was like, this is awesome. And thanks to a couple good mentors that I met through the LaraChat community, they made sure that I focused on code checks, PHP, code sniffer, PSR4, all that kind of stuff. And I credit Laravel for really converting me as a developer to be more focused on the quality of the code, the unit tests, the following a pattern, so to speak, instead of being a procedural developer. So that's why I love Laravel so much, and I will fight any of you who say Laravel sucks. You understand? Maybe I won't fight you, but that's kind of me in a nutshell. And we have Matt back, his 2009 computer. He did whatever he had to do, some voodoo magic. So Matt's back, and who the hell are you?
Oh, who am I? What's my story?
Yeah, that's kind of what we've been doing all along.
I have no idea. Everything died on me, so um, like how far back are we going?
Just some background. I think people wanted to know like where our viewpoints come from, because if you're you're a freelancer, you have different viewpoints from consultant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. So all right, I'm gonna give the shortest version of my story that I can. Um, I first started coding back in like 2010-ish. I used to do construction and stuff. Then I had this crazy idea. I'm like, I'm gonna code, and I literally just bought a bunch of books on coding and just started playing with it. And I was like, this is pretty sweet. And scored my first job with a little marketing firm in a small town. And the ball just started rolling. Met some cool guys from BlackBerry. Started working on JavaScript stuff with them. Met the guys from PhoneGap. Started learning stuff from the PhoneGap guys. Then went on to another couple small teams and started playing more with. I had to handle like old Ruby apps, and then I was playing with. Well, and I had just gotten into CodeIgniter, and I was like, oh, I get CodeIgniter. That makes sense to me. And then I started working with Adam Wathen and a couple of guys out of Waterloo, and they're like, hey, you should play with Laravel because it's way better. And I was like, that makes sense, and got hooked on Laravel, and soon I'm going to be starting with a company that's mostly Symfony focused, so on to Symfony.
Oh, you're moving to Symfony? I'm going to move to Ruby. Wow, I'm going to get so much hate now.
Yeah, you are.
All right, Riz, you know what? I'll protect you. I'll put on my hockey gear, and anybody that comes at you, they'll have to go to.
I kind of feel it's important to branch out once in a while. I'm going to answer quickly here for Eduardo's question. Headphones. These are Sennheiser Momentum 2s, closed back headphones. They're pretty good. I like these just because they have a microphone. So they are better for travel. For home use, a bit bulkier, these are Audio-Technica M50Xs, which I recommend if you're looking for a cheap pair for home use these. These will not disturb people. You can wear them on the train or on the plane. You won't hear anything at all, so be careful with that. Don't walk with those on. You won't hear a bus coming your way. And I also have these. These are open back Audio-Technica R70Xs, which are for these are for home use, so my ears don't burn at home. I think gear is a pretty big topic. I have a lot of gear, and I think it's fun for a little show and tell. We talked about this before, where everybody can show off some of their gear. And while we're on that, I want to remind the community we are welcome to people joining us and talking about their thoughts and experiences. Having more viewpoints is a great thing. I think 4 to 6 people is about the sweet spot, so I think we'll always have more room for more guests to join up. And yeah, I think so. So yeah, as Matthew Hatcher said on the chat, I don't want to go too far into hardware. I don't want us to talk about photography or to talk about audio editing or anything for now, but it's fun to know what developers use, what our colleagues use. It's also fun because you don't usually hear about this kind of thing. You don't usually know that this thing is new and good. So.
Matt Stauffer he talked about it on his 3-Minute Geek Show episode once. He likes to find out what developers do that's not development. What are their other hobbies? Which is kind of interesting. It shows you what you are outside of work, kind of.
We have lives too.
Right, we do.
You know, yeah. On the topic of the headphones, you notice that there's no headphones here. I thought I'd show you. This is a bit personal, but this is what I have. Looks like a pen, hey?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a Bluetooth. Basically, it looks like a pen. I could take it out of its case, place it down on a table, and it works as a microphone. So that's what it is. And because it's plugged in right now to my computer, it's sending a Bluetooth signal to what many of you probably don't even know. These are hearing aids, and they have Bluetooth built into them. So yeah, I have a hearing loss, both ears. So you guys are being broadcasted in, and I think if you have a hearing loss, being a coder, a developer is an amazing job because I can turn off my hearing aid, and I'm in the zone. I don't have any distractions, and this little device, I plug it into my computer, and I hear the music directly. That's a bonus of being hard of hearing. There are some downsides when you can't hear things, but I do get a great night's sleep every single night. Nothing wakes me. Garbage truck comes by. I don't know. You got a car alarm going off all night. Whatever, I don't care. You can do that all you want. My poor wife and family, though. The downside in having a wife and family that can hear is they wake you up to let you know that the garbage truck has gone by. You need to take that trash out now. No. Yeah. I don't know about you guys.
What's that? Sorry, Sean?
Are you making fun of me there?
No, I kind of see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I live alone, so I like my peace and quiet. Which is also, sometimes I sleep with these on because I don't like hearing the world.
Yeah, that annoys me too, especially in LA. We have helicopters going by, sirens all night. It's just ridiculous.
Like, damn it, world, let me code. Okay, I think we might actually have hit our limit roughly. We did have on the description talking about repositories and services, which I think are another huge topic. Maybe next week. And again, stretch it out. Anybody who wants to join us, let us know on the Slack channel. You want to make any closing words, guys?
Yeah, let's wrap it up here. But like you said, we are open to people coming on. We are open to people shouting out their ideas of what maybe they want to talk about or they want us to talk about. And Jesse, he asked me a question about long walks on the beach. Not with you, Jesse. Not with you ever. Not ever, please. So, if you guys are all talked out, I know I am, we can wrap it up here and say goodbye to everybody and catch up with everybody on the chat. All right?
All right.
Good
See
night,
you guys on Slack.
See you, everyone.
Good night.